Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Catherine Joe Show. I know it's been a minute since we put out an episode. A little bit, sometimes life just happens when you're first starting out. But I am back and talking about two topics that are very near and dear to my heart. I'm going to talk about adoption and foster care. And the reason that these two things mean so much to me is because I have always wanted children, and due to cancer, barring a miracle from God, and he can give me that miracle anytime he wants, I can't have children. And before I even had cancer, before I even lost the ability to have children of my own, I remember, I don't know what brought it up, but I remember very clearly just standing and saying, I'm going to foster. I'm going to be a foster parent. And then 2 years later, with the cancer and everything, that topic did become very relevant to me, even more so. And you'll actually be able to read about that in my cancer story book that I'm hoping to publish in a few months, but I'll let you know how that's going. Anyway, so adoption and fostering is a beautiful thing. Both are beautiful things. Both are difficult things. Here's the problem that I have with adoption. And right now, I'm just bringing this forward, asking questions. I have done research on it in the past. I very seriously was looking into adopting a baby, private adoption. And the first thing that I learned, and this was hard, is private adoption will cost here in the United States to adopt a baby in the United States anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. It varies on the state. It varies on the organization that you go through. But just private adoption is that range. Now, one thing I also learned is that there are grants available. So I looked into that. Those grants maybe top that I've seen is about $2,000. So the grants are $500 to $2,000. Now, in a case where every penny counts, those are a few pennies, but they don't really make a hole into it, and into what you would need to have. So I'm looking at nationaladoptionfoundation.org. It's called fundyouradoption.org, and from the National Adoption Foundation. It says, according to the Child Welfare Information Gateway, adopting a child in the United States can cost $45,000. And then they say this should not scare parents from attempting to adopt. It's important to remember that the cost varies depending upon how the parents choose to adopt, and that there are grant programs available to help with the cost of adoptions. Parents may choose to adopt a newborn, a foster child, or an international child. Okay. So very true. And I feel every parent is drawn towards wherever they feel pulled. And when I first started looking into this, I was very determined. I wanted a newborn. I wanted to adopt a newborn. I hear so many times people saying, adoption is an option, and I do believe it is. Because so many people out there like me, so many women like me can't have children. And that's a completely different topic that bothers me, is to the amount of infertility seems to be going up in the world, or at least in the United States. And so that's totally fine. And I did eventually start leaning towards the fostering, but it was because I found out how much it was to adopt. And so here's my question. Why has adopting a baby become such a money-making scheme? I feel like, honestly, $45,000? Am I buying a baby or am I adopting a baby? I have to wonder. Now, I know that there's lawyer fees that are involved. You have to have a home inspection, which I did have done twice because I moved in between fostering. And let me tell you, those lawyer fees, Well, they can be up there. They're not $45,000. And the home inspection, definitely not even close. And then you pay the medical expenses of the mother if she does not have insurance in some way. So I can see how medical expenses can add up. And if you're going to have a baby, those would be something that you would be paying as well. But the whole process and the amount of it is you got to have that $45,000. Now, another source did say it could be $20,000 to $40,000. And again, that depends on the organization you're going through as well as the state that you are in. Either way, adoption has become so unbelievably out of reach for so many parents. They're good parents, and they would give this child a loving home and a stable home and all of that. And they're out of the running almost immediately because of the cost. And what really brought this back to my mind is a couple in my church are trying to adopt, and they have to fundraise for it. And that it's just, I mean, I definitely want to help in any way I can because I know from experience how expensive this is for just adoption. And it's something that greatly bothers me. The cost of it bothers me. Just, I cannot get over the fact that I feel like I am buying a baby. So after thinking carefully about adoption, I then, I always had fostering in mind. So I started researching foster care, being a foster parent. And at the time, I lived in a town that had an organization that did therapeutic foster care. And I went to a information night there. And I remember it just clicked. It was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is it. Okay, Lord, you led me here. I'm supposed to be a foster parent because everything they are saying is just bringing all of those children of all ages straight to my heart. And I knew I was in the right place there. So I went through the foster training, and I actually was certified to foster and foster to adopt because that was what I wanted to give any child I could a chance, just a chance. And if it meant that they stayed with me for a couple of months or the rest of their lives, I didn't care. I wanted to love that child. I had the love to give, wanted to love that child. Now, here's something that I learned about fostering is, as much as there are so many children that need to go through the foster care system, one thing that they really, really have you do is put a lot of thought and consideration into the age ranges that you feel comfortable adopting in. So I had to, as a single woman, I had to really stop and think, is it smart for me to take on a teenage boy? I did not feel comfortable with that. I didn't. Mostly because I'm short. I am not strong. And I don't know that I would be the right person to be a good role model to a teenage boy. I really felt like I by myself, I didn't feel that I could be a good role model for a teenage boy. And it made me a little bit nervous. So at the time I started, okay, babies and little girls or little boys. And the roller coaster that you can be on. And I don't fully understand why I felt so drawn to it. And it ended up being such a roller coaster because I do believe things happen for a reason. But here's what I learned about fostering care. First of all, it's a community. The parents are there to help each other out, especially in this organization. You had, of course, your person through the state, but you mostly dealt with your person through this organization, and they were not overwhelmed. They as far as how many kids they had on their list. And I know that the government employees taking care of this are massively overwhelmed. So I knew there would be a good teaching time. There would be a good communications and everything like that. I felt comfortable with that. And then the roller coaster hit and I get a call. You might be getting a kid tonight. Okay. 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 Hour later, a family member stepped up. And let me just say this right now. I do think it is best for a family member to take the child versus a complete stranger. I believe that in every case that happened to me, which was a lot, it was best that they went to their family member and not to me. It was best for them. Despite what I may want, it was best for them. And with this though, when you get that call, you're like, "Oh my gosh, yes, yes, yes." And then, "Oh, okay, no." And then eventually you get another call. "Okay, we're probably going to be bringing a kid with you tonight. Okay, okay, we got that. Okay, you'll be hearing from so and so if it works out that way, and you guys are going to go hit Walmart. Got it. Okay, we can do that." Call comes back. Family member stepped up. Again, thank you, Jesus, for them, but my heart just plunged. This happened many times, many times. And I do remember that the very first time it happened, there was some leeway and I was scared. I was terrified. I said, "I don't know that if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm ready." And ultimately, a family member did step up. So she wouldn't have come to me anyway. But after this up and down emotional, and I mean, we're not talking a little emotional, it was my heart was racing in excitement to have this child come into my home, and then my heart was broken. That is how much I was emotionally invested in being a foster parent because I knew I didn't have a chance to adopt through a private adoption. And on top of which, the more I got to understand foster parenting and the children in the system, the more I really just wanted to give to those kids right there too. If I ever had an opportunity to privately adopt a baby, I would take in 2 seconds flat. But at the same time, I could see so much need in the foster care system. After all of the training and the continual training, and there were support groups for foster parents and everything like that. So here's the interesting part. I started going through some really difficult times, some medical time, some personal time, and I thought and I prayed about it, and I ended up saying, "I need to take a break because I am just it's too much emotionally right now, the up and the down." These are not little ups and downs. These were mountain peaks and the bottom of the Grand Canyon. That's how it felt, and I had to take a break. And they totally understood. They'd had that happen, and I had done some respite foster care, and I had all of these things that I bought, beds, bedding, and some toys, and just a lot of just different things that I would pick up and be like, "Oh, this would be so cute in a little girl's room," and all of that. And for my mental health, I just had to put that aside. And fortunately, I knew lots of families who could use some of these things. And I took a break. And then things got better for me health-wise, things got better for me personally. I actually even ended up buying a house. And so I was like, "All right, I'm settled back into this house. I'm feeling more in control of my life right now. Let me reconnect with the foster care people." And I was still within a time frame where I just had to have another meeting and another home inspection. And the lady came over. We had a great conversation. I showed her the house. The setup ahead was a lot simpler, and but still everything they needed: closet, bed, dresser, and then details would be pulled in if a child came in. She's like, "This is great. This is so really great. Okay, we'll be in touch." Okay. So I started going to the support groups again, getting reconnected into the community, and I got a call. And they said, "Okay, there's a young girl who's up for adoption." Now she's with a foster family that they're not looking to adopt. "We think you'd be a really great fit. Would you want to meet this girl?" And I was like, "Absolutely. Oh, please, please. Yes, absolutely. 1,000%. I want to meet this little girl." And you think I would have learned my lesson? No, I didn't learn my lesson. I got very excited and very hyped up, and I don't know why, but the foster mother just made it very difficult to connect, and then ultimately said another family was going to take the child. And I felt broken, because here's the thing. When you're truly invested in being a foster parent, you hear, okay, there's a kid who needs you, and you put your whole heart and soul into wanting that child. That is, for me, that is foster care. Is this child needs my whole heart. They need all the love I can give them, all the patience I can give them, all the understanding and all the direction that I can give them. And that one just really, that was hard. I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. And then, I don't know how long after that it was, maybe it was a little bit of God knew what was going to come in my life. I got sick with a horrible stomach bug, and the horrible stomach bug somehow flipped a switch in my body, and chronic fatigue hit. And when it hit me hard for about 6 or 7 months. Getting out of bed to do the simplest, smallest task was a superhuman feat. If I had to go downstairs to my basement to do laundry, by the time I got back upstairs, I was breathing hard. My whole body was shaking from exhaustion. Obviously, I would not have been able to take care of a child in that situation. And it took a while, but eventually, I was like, I'm really sick. I'll let you know when I'm doing better, is how I communicated to the foster people, and they understood, and they're like, just let us know. We can put you active again. And I mean, ultimately it ended up never happening. And that broke my heart, because it's something I still want to do. And while I am doing better with the chronic fatigue, I'm no longer stuck in bed 24/7. I do have to be extremely careful with how much energy I put out as far as physical, emotional, stressful, anxiety, things like that. I'm doing a lot better. I really am. I still, unfortunately, can't get back to my old job. I did lose my job because of not being able to work, plain and simple. And I can't get back there yet. But again, as I mentioned before in a previous episode, yet I can't do these things yet. And I realized, maybe there is a way that I can eventually, if I can get a 2-bedroom place again, because I ended up having to sell my house. Maybe I can do it, be a teenager, take in teenage girls and help the teenage girls. Mostly because I don't have to change a teenage girl's diaper in the middle of the night. I hope. We'll see. Things like that. Do I know that a teenage girl is going to be every bit as emotionally difficult, physically difficult as a toddler? Yes, I am aware of that. But you spend a lot of time looking at yourself and doing self-reflection with foster care. At least you should be doing this, and realizing where are your abilities lie, because it's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to change a little bit throughout life too, because life happens. So going back to adoption and fostering to adopt, I ultimately had to give up my license for now. But then again, like I said, what really got me back onto this is seeing that a lovely couple from my parish has to have fundraisers to be able to adopt a baby. And not everybody is called to be a foster parent. That's the thing. It has to be almost a calling to be a foster parent, because a child who comes to you is hurting. They are hurting in so many different ways through foster care. And so you have to be ready to take on that hurt and try to show them that you're not going to hurt them. Not on purpose. I mean, obviously, no one is perfect. Every parent makes mistakes no matter what. It happens. You cannot, there's no such thing as a perfect parent, because we're human. We are fallible. We make mistakes. It's a part of our nature. So with that in mind, I guess I just want the questions to start being asked about adoption. Why is it so expensive? These are children. These are human beings. and you have to come up with tens of thousands of dollars to give that human being a family. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. So I want those questions. Let's start asking those questions out there. Why does it have to be this expensive? I mean, I know. Okay, give me the medical expenses, lawyers, what have you. But I'm sorry, people are making massive amounts of money. And if you're going to give a grant to help with adoption, make it substantial, not a drop in the bucket. Not to the point, if you're going to give a grant, then give a grant where you're going to cover X amount of expenses. I mean, it's just, this isn't school. This isn't a business. This is a human life. We are charging tens of thousands of dollars for a baby to have a home. Let's start asking those questions. Why? That's wrong. I'm sorry. I truly believe it's wrong. And for those of you who feel called to be a foster parent, go sit in for an informational session. Find organizations. I did it through a therapeutic foster organization. They gave me good training for trauma training with children. Go look within their state. Just go to the state because the number of kids who need homes. And yes, they have group homes, but those are not going to, as much as the people may try there, it's not the same as a home. And a child is just not going to flourish the same way as a home. So I strongly encourage anyone who feels called to being a foster parent, go that route. You may have the child for a couple months. You may end up adopting the child. You never know. You never know what situation you're going to walk into. And let's start raising that question more publicly. Why is adopting a child such a financial burden? I don't understand that. Anyway, I hope everybody is having a good day and remembering to find those things to smile about. Keep that smile on your face even after all of the frustration that I just expressed. Towards the end of it, my dog just came up to me and popped his little paws up on my leg and is looking at me with those big dog eyes. So, of course, he got me smiling again. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I'll be back on the show later this week. We'll see you all then. God bless.